let them in.
I picture like a club and the door opens and people start.
Cool.
All right, welcome. We will let people get loaded here. For those of you just joining us, welcome to Byrd Friends. Sorry, we had a technical difficulty with our Zoom link. So we're going to have some folks trickling in here. And as we do that, I will get some of the housekeeping stuff out of the way. So just to let everyone know, this event is being recorded. So if you wish to turn off your camera or change your name, whatever you're comfortable with, feel free to do so. There are 3 dots at the top right of your square that will give you the option to change your name. The microphone and the camera function are on the bottom left-hand side. You should have been muted upon entry. You won't be able to unmute yourself unless I ask you to, at which point you'll receive a message asking if you'd like to unmute. That's to eliminate background noise out of respect for our members, guests, and to give you all the best experience. There may be a point for Q&A later, and if you wish to unmute, raise your hand or throw it in the chat. There's an option in the top right of your screen to switch views. I recommend the speaker view. That's where Zoom will enlarge the speaker's screen. If you're on a phone, you can simply just swipe from left to right to switch screens. So for those of you, if there's anybody out there that's new to the Phoenix, we are a national nonprofit whose mission is to build sober, active community that fuels resilience and harnesses the transformational power of connection so that together we rise, recover, and live. Our community standards here at the Phoenix, it's essentially a code of conduct that we ask folks to abide by while they're at Phoenix events. That is 48 hours of sobriety. As long as you have that, you can participate in any Phoenix event for free. Safe and supportive language, so nothing racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, nothing that could be perceived as threatening or violent, along with language that's just general behavior, right? So just treat one another with respect. No tobacco use or vaping while you're at Phoenix events, unless we're on maybe like a multi-day camping trip, something like that. Next, represent the Phoenix well. So if you're talking about Phoenix in the community or wearing any of our merchandise, just be mindful of your conduct when you're out in the public. Next, we support all pathways to recovery. We believe there is more than one pathway to recovery. Whichever pathway you took, we support it. We're glad that you're here. Next, giving back to the community. So if you feel Phoenix has given something to you and you're in a position to give back, we would be forever grateful. As a nonprofit, we rely on donations and volunteering to keep our programming free. That is not a requirement, however, but if you're interested in giving back, please visit our website at thephoenix.org. Lastly, music is an artistic expression based on an individual's opinions and life experiences. As such, some performances may contain triggering graphic language and/or themes. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are those of the artist and do not reflect the views of the Phoenix. All right, so welcome to the second installment of Byrd Friends. Join us every month as Rock and Roll Hall of Fame guitarist Ricky Byrd interviews some of his pals to discuss addiction, recovery, and how they found, discuss addiction, recovery, and life. Guitarist, singer, songwriter Ricky Byrd, who was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, formerly with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts in 2015, has had a career in music spanning over 40 years. He's also had the chance to share the stage with music royalty, including Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Alice Cooper, Bruce Springsteen, Smokey Robinson, Jimmy Page, and many more. Grateful for all of his musical achievements, Ricky is fond of saying that one of the greatest gifts he's been given happened on September 25th, 1987, when he started his recovery journey. So we have a very special guest today. Ricky's guest is Mark Kendall, Grammy-nominated founder and lead guitarist of Great White. The Great White sound captivated audiences worldwide with their blues-based guitar riffs and swagger. Best known for their Grammy-nominated Best Hard Rock Performance hit, the gold-selling Once Bitten, Twice Shy, over 900,000 copies of this single alone. Great White has sold over 10 million albums worldwide, has 6 top 100 Billboard hits, 9 top 200 Billboard albums, 2 multi-platinum albums, 5 gold records, and clocked the top of MTV Video 4 times. Mark Kendall once said, "The thing I love about the guitar is it's an instrument that allows me to express myself and how I'm feeling at any given time." So we're super excited to have Mark Kendall here today. Before I turn it over to Ricky, I'd be remiss if I failed to mention Ricky Byrd's latest album out now called Sobering Times, which is available on his website and all digital platforms, as well as retail stores internationally. Now, without further ado, I think I've talked enough. I'm going to turn it over to Ricky Byrd.
Thank you, Vince. And that website is rickybyrd.com. Yeah. So here we go. Here we are again. I got my friend Mark Kendall. Now, have we ever actually met, Mark?
No.
It's interesting.
Weird.
Like everybody thinks we all know each other. Like, and we've all been, it's sort of the same time frame, the Blackhearts and Great White.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all crossing the world, crossing the country and playing. So you never know. We might have crossed paths somewhere in Sheboygan or something. At like 8 a.m. at After Hours Club. But yeah, we're so the 6 degrees of separation is I was blessed enough to play with Ian Hunter in '93. I had left the Blackhearts in '91, and the first thing I did was I went out with Roger Daltrey and I did a record with him, and then I did a radio tour and TV. And then Ian called me, and he said, they do this every year. He would go to Scandinavia and England, and he said if I would like to join him, and then we'll pick up like a rhythm section in Scandinavia, and that's what we did. But and I'm sure it's the same for you. I think we're about the same age. I grew up on, one of the bands included in my long list of inspirational rock and roll when I was a 14-year-old was Mott the Hoople, of course.
Sure.
And in fact, I saw them at the Uris Theater in 73, maybe 74. And Queen was opening. It was Queen's first trip to America. But so I'm like a huge Ian Hunter fan. So I got to go out on the road with him and play all those songs that I listened to when I was a little kid, trying to figure out, what I was doing. And Once Bitten, Twice Shy, which is later in his career, we did that. There's actually a YouTube, it's somewhere out there. We did this thing called the Stockholm. I don't know if you ever played this, the Stockholm Water Festival, I think it was. And it was outdoors, and we did Once Bitten, and then we did All the Young Dudes, of course, because you have to. So we're like connected like that. Let me ask you a question. We'll talk a little bit about music, but I want to talk about recovery. What made you decide to do that song?
Well, first, the first encounter of even Ian Hunter was in 1984. Our sound man was good friends with him. So he had a drum riser in his backyard. So we went and borrowed it for the Judas Priest tour. And that's the first time I ever seen him. And then later in the 80s, he rode on our bus to the Ritz. Yeah, we played the Ritz with Guns N' Roses. Okay, so, but as far as us doing that song, it happened really by accident. We had an album called Once Bitten. The obvious follow-up was Twice Shy.
Right.
The guitar player, not Slash, but Izzy, had come to our manager with that song. He goes, "How perfect. Once Bitten, Twice Shy. Check this song out." It was never like really a massive hit or anything. It's kind of obscure, but once it could be an album track. So the manager loved, now he didn't approach us, just our manager. Our manager came to us with the song. He said he loved the lyrics, because it's all about being on the road. And so we did it thinking it would just be like an album track, but that's the one the label went crazy for. So,
Yeah, of
but
course.
those meetings, early meetings with Ian Hunter, had nothing to do with us doing the song. It was just kind of a complete fluke in a way, but it's a great song, you know.
So it was out. When did the song? When did it actually come out? When did Ian put it? That was his solo thing. That wasn't Mott the Hoople, right?
Yeah, right. It was 89. I'd never heard the song before it was played for me. So I
Is that
didn't
right?
know about Ian Hunter had a song called Once Bitten Twice
Yeah, I
Shy.
think that was that was Ian and Mick Ronson, maybe. If I might be wrong about that.
Could have been. But I was a fan of Mott the Hoople as well, but I didn't really know a lot about his solo career or anything like
Oh,
that.
that's interesting.
But obviously all the young dudes like the greatest song I ever heard.
And it's a sort of
awesome.
a similar kind of story is they put out records before that and they were about to break up. And David Bowie, because they couldn't really get any traction, and David Bowie said, "You guys are great. You can't break up." He says, "I got a song for you," and he played them, all the young dudes, and that was the song that really brought Mott the Hoople to the front.
Mick Ronson is a brilliant producer. I saw
Oh yeah, for sure.
a David Bowie documentary, and you know he does all the strings, he arranges all that, and does all. He did Lou Reed's "Take a Walk on the Wild Side." He had a lot to do with that production.
Right.
That's pretty. Lou came in, and his guitar was all out of tune and stuff. He kind of made him tune it. He was just gonna play it like that, but yeah. So that guy was brilliant.
He was a real sweet guy too. I knew him a little bit when I was a teenager hanging out at New York clubs. He was kind of on the scene here in New York. So I met him a couple of times. Yeah, he was a great guy. I mean, it's such a long journey.
Total rock star.
It's yeah.
I met him once, but I was so engulfed in Stevie Ray Vaughan because we used to play the Charlie Daniels annual benefit jam in Nashville, and he always gets all these rockers that are like, gods to me.
Yeah.
So I met Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I was just like, asphyxiated on him a little bit. He kept saying how tall I was. I'm 6'3". I mean, I'm not like basketball player size, but he kept saying, "You're so tall. You're so tall."
It's interesting. Another sort of digressing into this other thing with Stevie Ray. The night we were inducted, Stevie Ray was inducted as well, and Jimmy Vaughan, his brother from the Fabulous T-Birds,
right.
he gave the speech. Now, why is that interesting? Well, we used to every time the T-Birds came to New York. It's a long story, but it had to do with a friend of ours that was kind of a dealer to both bands. And when they came to New York, Jimmy was always at our house, always at our apartment. And this is way before we got clean. So there's some frightening photos of me and Jimmy Vaughan. Like he'd come over the house, and Stevie was over our house one night as well. And I got to hang with Stevie a little bit after we both got sober as well.
Cool.
But I remember Jimmy Vaughan saying, "Hey man, let's try to write a song for the T-Birds," and going in the bathroom to write a song and sitting there and just getting high, and then nothing. We just never, not a note was written. It was just, we just talked the whole night.
Stevie Ray Vaughan has a wonderful speech. He tells a story, and it's on YouTube. It's about 30 minutes, and
I heard that.
Absolutely wonderful. He really spills his heart out. You can kind of see how he's so passionate the way he plays. He grabs notes.
Yeah.
Because he feels that way at that given time. So he really plays out of the pores of his skin. I mean, and he's like that when he speaks too. You can tell it's directly from his heart.
Yeah.
And so his story is so touching. His recovery story.
Yeah, and he was so grateful once he got clean. In his shows, in his concerts, just became. I mean, we all became different people, obviously. Sure. But just really, it's amazing how the switch came. Once the switch is flipped, we become different people. Let me. The thing is, I'm always starting with a tune.
All right.
Play a quick song. This is from Sober in Times, my new record. you know, those of you that don't know, like the last two records were rock and roll, no doubt rock and roll. It's what what you expect out of me. But the lyrics were all about addiction and recovery, you know, and hope. And I'm working on I'm working on some new songs now. This is not going to be a recovery record. I think I've mined that field. I've got two albums worth of songs, you know, that I could play anywhere at any treatment facility.
Great song.
So it's going to be positive messages on the record. It's just not going to be so specific. There may be one song that I'll make really specific, but I think it might be time to move on, you know, and just, you know, spread it out a little bit. So this one I do when I do my treatment facilities, and it's great because, you know, let's say picture that I'm playing in a facility, and I'm playing to like 70 guys that are, you know, some of them just got into treatment, some of them have been there 3 months, some of them. And at the end, I ask everybody to sing along, and all of these people, you know, they all start singing the tagline, which is, "I ain't gonna live like this no more." And like the hair on your arms just goes straight up. You know, it's just one of those moments, man. Yeah. We call this greasy, right? Lady or the tiger, what's behind the door? I know one might just kill me, but I got to get some more. The devil's dealing aces, cause he knows just what you need to keep you in the alley begging bargains on your knees. But I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more, no more. I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more, baby. Hell is living for the need and the score. No, I ain't gonna live like that, no, no more, no more. Working hard at nothing, just fixing for a hit. Crawling from the consequences, swearing this is it. A lie begets a lie, the truth is laying low. My bullshit's thick with every trick to get me where I got to go. But I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more, no more. I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more. Hell is living for the need and the score. No, I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more. Listen now. I'm circling the drain, I can't tell the pleasure from the pain, no. This ain't my fate, I'm gonna get on the straight, yes I am. All right now. Coming to, it's 5 p.m. I woke up 3 times today. Lord, grant me the serenity to shake this pain away. I'm cold, tired, and need some strength to get me off the ground. I pray you help me turn this down and dirty life around. Cause I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more. I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more, baby. Hell is living for the need and the score. No, I ain't gonna live like that no more, more, more. No more, no more, baby. Now here's where I'd get them to sing. We go like this. I ain't gonna live like that no more, no more. I ain't gonna live like that No more, no more. I ain't gonna live like that. No more, no more. I ain't gonna live like that. No more, no more. No more, no more. No more, no more. It's my Paul Rogers.
You're pretty soulful for a white man. Yeah, good job, man. That's a cool song.
Yeah, so the kicker is, like I said, when you hear like 70 guys, and then I take it over to the girls wing of the treatment facility, and they're all singing it, and they're all,
That's cool.
it's
That must
like
sound awesome.
yeah, that was the right thing to do, was to write that song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, heck yeah.
So let me talk to you about now. Here's the thing: people always ask me, they say, "Ah, man, in the rock and roll business,
Yeah.
must have been a lot of, everybody's getting high. Like, there must have been easier
Right.
for you to." And my answer is always like, "Listen, not everybody got high and drank,
Right.
but those are the people I hung out with."
Sure.
Because I mean, who the hell wants to hang out with people that are sober when you're not, and they're kind of pointing fingers and stuff. But so before you got into, I read a bunch of stuff, like the couple of groups that came before Great White. When did you start using, like, I started when I was 13 smoking pot. Okay. That's right. Where did your thing start?
Well, first of all, I understand people want to connect the music to it, but I could work in a cubicle and I would still be an alcoholic. Get me?
Exactly.
So even though, yeah, it was the era where people did blow and sociably and drank and whatnot, and so I see where they're coming from, but it really has nothing to do with my addiction. My addiction is just, I was just born with that compulsive seed.
Do you have it in your family? Because I do.
My dad was an alcoholic.
Yeah, mine too.
That never missed a day of work and wasn't violent. But
Right.
when I was 8 years old, because he used to play semi-pro ball, I was really nosy. I was always looking at my parents' drawers and their closet and stuff. And one time I went to his closet to see if he had an old uniform, and I hear this jingle, and it was like all these pints of vodka empty in all his jacket pockets, just like, I mean, it was like a chime of booze. I knew where his pot was. Bennies used to fall out of his pocket when he'd fall asleep watching TV. I'd get up to go to school. I'd see the what crosstops, and so I knew a lot at 8 years old. One time they were playing Pinochle, and our refrigerator opened and blocked this door, and they had a gallon jug of wine, and I kept taking swigs on it. I had two kids spending the night, and I got drunk. I'm not saying that was the seed of my alcoholism, but it's the first time I got inebriated from drinking alcohol. I never drank alcohol before that. And, I went on, lived my life, started drinking like on the weekends, like when I was like 15, 16, just partying with friends. Didn't wake up with tremors or, I'd be out playing basketball right when I woke up, you know what I mean? Running around, and it didn't affect me until later years. When I first started noticing there was a problem was I was about 26 and we were on tour. And we used to have 4 cases of beer every night, 4 bottles of Stoli, and we pretty much with all the crew guys and everything, we'd go through it. I've never been a hard alcohol guy, but I drank beer like a crazy man. I always had a beer in my hand.
Yeah.
And I started waking up and had tremors. And so I drank a couple beers, and the tremors went away. And I go, okay, there's my answer. Alcohol cures everything. So that's the way my thinking was. But you know, as far as trying to get sober, I started that when I was 34. Went to a rehab center. My band was going to intervene on me. I knew it was going to happen. I could see it coming. And so when they got into the meeting, I immediately, you know, put my hand up and said, I want to quit. I know why we're all here, but I don't know how to do it. I've never tried to do it. You know, what do you do? I mean, go to rehab or, you know, and they already had a facility for me picked out, and I went that day to Arizona. Listened to everybody about it being a progressive disease. You know, learned a lot, but I didn't believe the progressive disease part of it, because they told me no matter how long you're sober, if you go back, it'll not only go back to where you were as far as pain and all that, but it'll be worse. I didn't believe that, but I go, okay, you know. And so I went on for 17 years, starting and stopping, but literally completely white knuckle sobriety. I would go 2 years without drinking, but the reason I kept going back, it was on purpose, not because, oh, a light came on and the voices said drink. I wanted to drink like a normal person. I was so jealous that people could drink socially and watch the game and drink 4 beers. It drove me crazy. I go, why is it that I have to keep going and wake up in pain and shaky and all that? So I'd try it and I'd be successful for about a week, but then it came again. So then I go a year and a half, and I went on like this for years until I just realized I cannot drink like a normal person. I give up. I surrender. And it was the first time I was ever honest. I called my wife from Utah. We were on the road, and I told her I drank, but I said, this time, she's heard this before, but I go, you know, by me telling her I drank, because she goes, you sound funny. And well, you sound like you've been drinking. You're talking out of your nose, you know. So, and then I deny it. I'd lie. But this time I called her and said I drank. But I go, the good news is I'm going to go home. I'm going to get headfirst into the program. I'm going to listen to all these guys with massive sobriety and take direction and get a sponsor and do all the things you're supposed to do and work on my character defects and all that. Because before I was only removing the alcohol, I was still lying for no reason.
Right.
I've said it before, but I would tell my wife I ate pizza when it was a hamburger for no reason. I was so used to being in the liars club, get me? So I had to, you know, for one thing, the first thing I worked on was my fears, because I've always had an embedded fear that's just unexplainable for no reason. I was afraid of things like playing in front of small crowds or being in a social situation where I have to go to a party with 10 people. You know, it made me nervous. I would always use alcohol as a vehicle to be the cool guy and hang out with people. So I had to learn how to conquer my fears, which I worked on for a long time. And the way I did it, because I know a lot of people, they drink because of fear, and you know, they have fears and it kind of masks the fear. The way I did it was confronting people, because I always had this fear of confrontation. I hated confrontation. I started confronting people daily as an exercise, you know, and it was tough, but all this stuff I'm afraid of, like, you know, little gatherings and chatting with people, it was all BS. It was stupid.
So tell me, like, so I was sharing, I celebrated my anniversary the other day on a Zoom meeting, right? And I was talking about, like, my take is, you know, slightly over here after 34 years, right? And I said to the newcomer, I said, look, I still have anxiety sometimes. It's way less than it used to be. I still have fear. I have fear of sometimes not getting any gigs. How am I going to pay my, you know, I have all that stuff just like I always had. The miracle is I don't have to use over that anymore. See, that's the freaking miracle. It's not like everything stops happening. I mean, life is life, man. You know, people, you lose your gigs, people die, you lose your apartment, you know, you this, that, then. the point is that, and I always say, like, when I was using, if Carol said to me, like, we need milk and bread, like I would have to like smoke 4 joints before I hit the street, like
Yeah.
I needed something to, and it's interesting what you're saying, like, so that's one point is like, we got this time behind us now, and we still feel, for newcomers, if there's newcomers listening, it's like, yeah, man, it just the rubber still meets the road. I mean, it's the same deal, except that the thing that I don't do anymore is I don't run to a drink or a drug to that chasing that feeling of not feeling, as I say. And I deal with it, and you know what? I get off on life now, like as far as dealing with the stuff.
Amazing.
I remember I read Keith Richards' book was fabulous, and he said when he stopped doing heroin, of course it was after he was almost put in prison for the rest of his life, he got off on people coming, hey Keith, I got some stuff, and he said, no baby, I'm good. He like got off on that, no baby, I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And to me, see, I did it wasn't like I used it, drank and drugged for 18 years. It wasn't really until it was like the last 10 years. And it's which coincides with the beginning of like the 80s. Like when cocaine came into the world, in my world, that like threw everything into another place, It was cocaine, and because I was doing in the 70s when I was a teenager, we did pills, right? We had a couple of beers at the bar, we smoked pot and stuff. Cocaine like completely took it into another level for me, and mixing that with Jack Daniels was my drink, right?
Oh.
And then, and it just turned you into like a complete maniac. And that was my decline. Like that's the beginning of what took me down until I made the phone call, the famous phone call, right? We all make,
right.
It's either somebody comes looking for you or you find somebody, it's like,
it's like the adversity in life doesn't go away because you are sober, but it's easier to deal with. And one thing about being a using addict is it's so much work. It is so much work.
24/7 job.
The maintenance is insane. I call it chasing normal, because it became a point where I'm not trying to get, totally wasted at 10 in the morning. I just don't want to feel bad. So you're actually trying to just get to that zero level. Of course I'd keep drinking after that, but I wanted to get away from the pain and the shame and the guilt, because when I woke up, I felt guilty.
Well, yes, it's a cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. It's so much work. And the thing about being sober is you pretty much feel similar each day. And if adverse things come your way, they're so much easier to deal with, because if you're working hard on your drinking and drugging, it makes everything difficult. And my world becomes a very dark place. Nothing goes my way. It's like something in the universe knows when I'm not living right. At least it seems like that.
It's like 24 drinking and drugging is like a 24/7 hour, 24/7 job with lousy benefits.
Really bad benefits.
But
health
like you mentioned an interesting point. And let me be clear about this. I am a program person, right? Like I still go to meetings, AA, NA, CA, if I could find one.
Right.
But that's me. But because I started doing these treatment facilities, and because I also became a recovery coach and a counselor in training, I learned from doing some research that there's so many other ways that people are staying sober now. And I say, whatever keeps you on the right side of the grass, God bless you. Whatever it is, join a bowling league, go to church, go to AA, whatever it is that keeps you from killing yourself. It's fabulous. With that said, there's something about the fellowship of 12-step programs that taught what you're talking about life stuff. Like I could always pick up my phone and call my sponsor or call a friend, hey, Brian, you know what? I got this situation now. Like, this is what happened. Oh yeah, that happened to me like last month. And this, we have this, that's why it's called a fellowship, right? Yeah. So to me, the worst thing for an addict and an alcoholic is isolation. So whatever you choose to get sober, me personally, I say just don't do it alone, because you know an alcoholic and an addict alone is alone with a murderer.
Yeah.
You know,
When I
and
used to come home from meetings, I'd tell my wife, "You're not going to believe this, but 3 guys shared today, and every one of them told my story." It's
love it.
it's totally amazing, and like you said, you don't feel alone. I've never went out, when I first started reaching out to, anybody struggling, just offering my sober friendship on Facebook. I figured I could do something besides, let people know how wonderful I am. So I reached out on Facebook and just said, hey, if anybody's out there struggling with addiction, I'm available, to be a supportive, encouraging, sober friend. And since that, I've worked with a lot of people, but
That's
yeah,
exactly what
that
I
that
did at the beginning of this pandemic. I went, okay, how am
nice,
I going to stay sober during this? Okay, help other people.
right on,
Period.
brother.
That's always the
Yeah.
answer. And I did the same thing on Facebook, and I got so many people messaging me saying, my cousin's like da da da, this and that.
Oh
And if
yeah.
it was a matter of like, can you help me find a place? I would make a phone call because I got
Yeah.
connections now. It's like, hey, I got a guy that
Yeah.
needs a detox. He lives in Jersey. Can you hook him up? You
I
know,
do the same thing, bro.
yeah. And
It's
that's
so
why,
amazing. It's
and that's
amazing.
what keeps guys like us moving forward, is by
Sure.
helping other people. So there's stuff like you may not like the stuff in AA that's maybe the steps annoy you, or maybe the higher power thing annoys you. But even
Uh-huh.
you could do it without any of that if you want. Just
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's the fellowship, and if you listen and keep your ears open, there'll be stuff you'll pick up. You'll go, oh, that sounds good. But if
Yeah.
you go through the steps and read them, it's all about being a better person. See,
Right.
more caring, a citizen of the world, part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem.
Right.
So that's the shit that I get out of it. And it's like, if you got a better way and it's doing it for you,
Yeah.
go for it, baby. It's
That's
fine.
what I've never promoted AA publicly. They're kind of supposedly against that. But what I do is when I get one-on-one with somebody, I
Right.
share my story with them and tell them how I got sober and tell them, the stuff. And if they want to take some of that, it's available, but
That's exactly
I
what,
don't
that's
push
actually how I say it.
religion. If they
Yeah.
want to, pray to their furniture, that's fine with me. So I don't push religion. I don't push, 12-step groups or anything like that. But I do share how I did it, and that involves that stuff.
See,
So if you,
see what's happening here? We're saying the exact same stuff. That's why I love this thing of ours, as they say in the 5 families. It's like, I do the same thing. It's like when I do my treatment facility, I say, look, I'm not here to push AA. That's just the way I did it.
right,
Like if there's
right,
something in there that's attractive to you, if there's something in there that's not attractive to you, just give it a shot. Give it a chance. Like,
yeah,
what do you got to lose? See, if you
exactly.
don't like it, then do something else. But the point
It,
is that, it's been around a long time.
mhm.
There had no, regardless of what people that hate it like to say about statistics, there's millions of people around the world that have like continued living because of 12-step programs.
Yeah.
And the thing about helping other people, how good do you feel like when you get somebody into a detox, or it's like you do something, it's like it just, what it does, because now I've learned a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that problems we have is about low self-esteem,
Yeah.
self-loathing, whatever the hell it is. When you help somebody else, it brings up your self-esteem.
God.
The more your self-esteem is up, the less you want to hurt yourself. Yeah. So the point is there's actually a method to this madness of helping other people. And whatever you believe on in this world, you have to believe that we were put here to help other people. You just
Sure.
have to believe it, because I mean, we couldn't have been put here to just argue and fight with everybody,
It's the greatest. It's the greatest.
So I
The very
think,
first guy, if I can say, the very first guy I worked with, he was rolling out of bed and just filling a big gulp cup with whiskey. He would shop for 2 weeks at a time, just isolating and drinking and drinking. And the day he got a hold of me, his wife told him that she didn't want to watch him die anymore, but she wasn't going anywhere. She was supportive of him, but was just crushed, and the words kind of crushed him. And then he saw my Facebook post. Well, he ended up going. I got him in Cumberland through Music Cares, an entity called Music Cares, and he went from patient to counselor in 5 years, and he has 8 years sobriety today. I just send these guys, I work with them one-on-one, then I send them daily prayers and meditation. And it's just a wonderful thing. And like you said, it makes you feel, I can't even describe how good it makes me feel to watch a very sick person get well. It's absolutely stunning.
And
what
you
it
also
does for me.
you also learned very early on in your recovery, when you start helping other people, that we cannot get somebody else clean and sober.
No.
We could plant seeds, we could point them in the right direction, we could give them all the information that's needed, but you can, like somebody can't get me high now, and somebody can't get somebody sober. It's,
Right.
you got to do it. You got to do it yourself. You got to want it. You got to need it that bad.
Yeah.
Do it. But when I started working at these treatment facilities, and I would go in and I would do my songs and stuff, and then I'd come back the next week and they say, "Hey, remember that person that kid that you were like clowning around with, left early, and they found him in a Dunkin' Donuts bathroom, with a spike in his arm." And I was getting very depressed from it, and I had to really
me
come to a
too.
conclusion that if I was going to continue in the field, like even what I'm doing, I had to realize that I cannot get somebody sober. I can just plant seeds.
Yeah.
And that's it. And
It
when
used to crush me too when
Yeah.
people would go back and they'd get sick again. I quit taking their addiction personally. Of
there you
course,
go.
I want to see success, but at the same time, I can't get so emotionally destroyed when they don't make it. I just tell them when they do fall off, I just say, that's part of recovery, man. Just get back up and start over. Do
Yeah,
it
I
one day
always
at a
tell them,
time
dude,
again. Yeah.
there's so many people like dying right now from fentanyl and drunk. I mean, if you get a DWI, you're lucky. That's compared to driving into a tree. So the point being is, like, if you relapsed and made it back, you're blessed, bro. It's like,
Oh yeah.
get your stuff together, man, and start rocking. Start doing the deal,
Yeah.
because you only get it's like Russian roulette. You only get so many chances until you run out of time. You got away with it. You're back. Okay, don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up.
Right.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a horrible disease that wants you to die.
Absolutely.
I mean, it just works on your innards, on your brain, and tells you that you're not worth anything. Now, where you got that from? The schoolyard, your family, the dinner table, wherever.
Yeah.
It's working on you. So that's why isolation to me is the worst thing you could do. It's even if you
so
don't
important.
act as if, right? Like, even if you don't believe what you're hearing at first, just come, whatever groups you go to, Smart Recovery, whatever it is, just be involved. Get involved, because this is serious business. Like, we laugh about it, we tell stories, but it's serious business. I mean, we lose a lot of people every single day. These are your friends, your family, your sons, your daughters, your parents. So I mean, I think it's I have a question for you. So once you got it, so what year did you get into recovery?
November 2nd, 2008.
Okay.
But I started in 91.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes time to go through the books. Did you find, like, you're like me? I mean, you tour more than I do at this point. In fact, I did my first gig. I stood on stage with a 73 Les Paul last night with the amp turned up at a club in the city for the first time since March of 2020. And man, is there a smile on my face.
Awesome.
And I go into a club, like, I'm there to play. See, like, people ask me, "Oh, doesn't it bother you going into, like, people drinking around you?" It's like, dude, I don't even see it. I don't even see it anymore. It's not my thing. I'm not being cocky or anything. It's like I'm there to play. I'm there to do a job. I do my job and I split. See, I don't linger. I don't sit at the bar, you know.
Right.
But did you find, two questions. When you first started, like, okay, now you're in recovery. Now you go out, back out with Great White. Did you have like this stage fright or anything? Or were you, because I didn't have any. I was just like right back in the game.
Well, I can say this, in 91, when I was in that 30-day rehab, when I first got out, I went straight to the Capitol Records parking lot and played on stage with Vivian Campbell, you know, in front of like 1,000 people. And I was just scared to death. I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to go home. You know, even like going to 7-Eleven or something or anywhere, it's like I had to ease back into the world, even just after 30 days. So that was terrifying playing, especially in front of a small crowd. Because for some reason, when I play in front of big festival crowds, I'm not as nervous. But when it's a smaller, more intimate situation, I've never played sober since I was 17.
Right.
So, you know, and just to go straight to that stage right from the rehab, it was terrifying.
We went right back. Like I was the Blackhearts, I guess. I don't know. We were home for a couple. You know what it's like. You go on the road for months and months, then you come back, you record, then you go on the road for months and months, and it's just that. So we happened to be home when I went to my first community support group meeting, is what I call it when I'm public. You know, and then I went right back on the road. You know, so it took a little while. Like for example, so confirm this. This is our life. You're either staying in town overnight, correct, or you're getting on the bus and you're traveling 700 miles. Sure. Right? It's one of those two things. So if you're staying in town, you play your gig, and then you go back to the hotel, and then you go down to the bar, right? And then when the bar closes, you wind up in somebody's room, and that's where the trouble starts. Well, it actually starts at the bar, but that leads to the room. So that's one thing. So what I had to do is I had to learn, like at the beginning, I was still going down into the bar and I would have a club soda. And then I'd go up to a person's room and they'd be all getting high, doing blow and stuff. And I'd be sitting there, and the guy that was helping me in New York said, you may not want to be doing that. You may want to go back to your. So I had to learn as I went along. And then when we went, I swear to you, when we went on the bus for the ride, the second variable, dude, I would like, because it was all on the bus, right? The refrigerator was stocked. Your dealer was on the bus. Like the whole thing was there. It was like being in Stop and Shop. I would go in my bunk, bro, with like an AA big book, and I would pull the curtain close, and I would just pray, like let me get to the next gig, you know. But then it got easier.
Oh yeah.
As it went along, it got easier. And what I would do is I would get into a town and I would make a phone call to like a 12-step intergroup, and I'd say, hey, I'm in town for 2 days. Right? Yeah, I'm sure you did the same thing. Oh, we got
everywhere.
Yeah, we got a
meetings
thing
everywhere.
we got a meeting 20 miles away. We'll come and get you. You know, stranger would come and pick you up at the hotel, right? So
awesome.
it takes a little getting used to this living life, bright-eyed and bushy-tail, you know, but you do it. And if you keep close to the inside of the wheel, what do they say? Keep close to the inside of the wheel so you don't fly off, you know, and you keep using, I'm back to isolation again. If you got a pocket full of phone numbers and you use them, you know, how many people did you call from your hotel room, bro?
Well, I can tell you this, a guy I was working with, call him a sponsor.
Yeah.
He told me after 90 days, you're going to notice your life's getting better. So I got together with him after 3 months and go, you know, I totally believe you about, you know, I'm going to start, my life's going to get better, but it ain't happened yet, you know? So, but after a while, it did start getting better. And believe it or not, things started going my way, like more than I was used to.
Yeah.
My urges to drink, one thing that a guy with 30 plus years sobriety told me is the actual urge to do your drug or drink only lasts 2 minutes. It's the planning, you know, because you know how they call us town planners. I see this window of opportunity, you know. So it's the planning that goes on and on, but the actual physical urge to, God, a drink sounds so good. It's very brief. And if you can get through those moments in your early part of your recovery, you feel amazing the next day going, I got through it. I didn't drink. You know, you're so happy. And
But that's why they tell you to get to the crux of the problem before you get that urge. Like make the phone. If you get into a consistency of talking to somebody every day in recovery, the chances of that urge coming up are diminished greatly, because once your tail goes up, you know, it's really hard to put it back down again. It's like in the Sinatra movie, Man with the Golden Arm, when the dealer, you know,
I've seen it like 100 times.
Well, he was a heroin addict, and the dealer who wanted him to be his car dealer at these little games, he would say, "Hey, come with me," and Frank would go, "No, I'm off that stuff, man. I'm not off that stuff. Come on, just do a little, just this one last. No, I'm not. It's
free.
It's free. I got this great stuff." And then it was like, okay, and then you'd see his eyes would get really big, and he'd follow him. And that's what it's like. It's like if you get past that urge. It's so much easier if you're really on the phone with people every day. You know, and I find, like, I don't even have to be talking I could be talking to a recovery guy about baseball. It's about making the effort and keeping in the bubble of recovery. So, hey, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Can I say one more thing? Because you touched on this earlier about isolating and being alone, and I just want to say that no matter what program you get in, that fellowship, and you already covered it, but the fellowship, it makes you feel, when you hear other people tell your story over and over again, you know you're not alone. When you realize other people have your same problem, it somehow takes a little weight off you, as far as, like, you know, just realizing that you're not alone with this problem.
And why is that, Mark?
It's a very good feeling.
Why is that, Mark? Isn't it because we all think we're unique?
I guess, yeah, I guess so. But you know, when you do fellowship with people, it's very helpful. And you know, as far as my sobriety, see, you got 34 years, but it wasn't like you sat there one day and go, you know what, I think I'm going to be sober for 30 years. You just woke up and said, I'm not using today no matter what. So we've really done it. That one day at a time is very valuable. It's one of the things that I grabbed, that I hold on to for dear life. All I have to do is just stay sober today. I never put up any impossible tasks. And I hear newcomers say this. They'll say, I'm done. That always scares me. Or, you know, I'll never do that again.
How about I've got this?
So yeah, I've got this. You know, because what they're doing is they're saying, I'm done, like forever. It's an eternity thing until I die. I will never, you know, instead of just keeping it simple, I'm just not drinking today. I say a little prayer, you know, I make my bed or whatever, and I'm not drinking today no matter what. Please, Lord, help me. You know. And
it's interesting what you were saying about the unique thing. The first community support group meeting I went to, when I made the phone call. So it's 1987. I just came off the tour. Dude, I looked like I was in Whitesnake, right? Like I had, like, my hair was like this. I probably had a leather jacket, leather jacket with fringes on it, you know, like black skinny jeans, you know. And I walk into this meeting on the Upper East Side, like a Drugs Anonymous meeting, and nobody looked like me. Like, I mean, like, I will look like I walked out of an MTV video. And but people started sharing, like you said before, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. What is that all about?
No doubt.
And I said, and I realized from when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be part of something, you know, and you know, that's why we love being in bands and stuff. We like being in a gang, right? And I'm saying, wow, I got a new gang. Look at this. Nobody looks like me. This guy's an accountant. This you know, this woman's a CEO of a clothing company. This person. But wow, we're all talking about the same stuff. Like, how cool is that, man? That's crazy, man. And I was like, I was in that first day. That was it.
You know, it's living proof that the addiction doesn't know where you are in life. You could be dead broke. I've been in meetings with famous authors, you know, people in politics that are huge. You know, I never say who they are, but the addiction brought us in the same place.
Yeah.
Get me?
It's a level field.
It's a level field, man. It's a level
You know
field.
what's
And I
great?
think that's wonderful.
I do too. I do too. There was a guy that's meeting out where I live, and an old guy, probably in his 70, 75, 80 years old. And he was diagnosed with cancer. He was leaving, and he never once in a meeting talked about it, whined about it, complained about it. All he ever said was he was worried about his sponsees. And I just, like, the hair on my arm is like, wow, if that's
God.
not being part of the solution, man,
Yeah.
like, come on.
Totally.
That's what we aim for, right? That's our thing, where we could think of not ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, we got to live, we got to make money, we got to have a career, but the key is to not be the center of the universe, like, all the time. Like, think of other people, and then, and the more you think of other people and help other people, like, the better we feel, and the better we feel, the more good work we could do. It's like a whole thing.
I can tell you, even in the heyday when we were just making money that I could never imagine, I was never happy. I never just go, I've reached the pinnacle, and I was trying to find happiness. I used to think of my uncle in Oregon and his beautiful ranch, just to go to a place in my mind where I had some kind of a happy feeling, So I've never experienced the amount of happiness I've got by seeing people get well. It's just insane. I mean, I can't even explain the feeling. It's just, it lifts you. It makes you. I've seen people look so bad, like their appearance, and then they just look like this absolutely wonderful looking person. I mean, how can you not love that?
And
I love it.
And the thing is, like, once you get into recovery, then you could start working on the other things in your world. Like, you have a chance. Like, somebody wrote something. He's like a life coach or something, and he wrote something on Facebook that he said, what did he say? All your bills will be paid, and your thing. I said, no, dude. The deal is, if you can't pay your bills, you still don't use. That's the miracle. It's like, yeah, it's easy when you can pay your bills. It's like when you can't pay your bills and you don't want to use. That's like, wow, that's so cool, man. But
hey, Ricky and Mark, so sorry to interrupt you. I'm Liz. I'm sorry. Vince has got a frozen Zoom, so he's not able to do any anything with
you
Zoom.
Can't talk?
But I am Liz from the Phoenix too, and I just wanted to tell you we're about at time, so I hate to cut us off, but I just wanted to see if you would mind taking. I have one question and one really cool comment in the chat, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
let's go.
All right.
Yeah.
So Barry actually chimed in here and said, "I'll be 9 months sober in a few days. Thanks so much for doing this, guys, and thanks, Mark, for being my sober friend." So just really wanted to celebrate him.
Excellent.
Sweet. Yeah. That's an amazing milestone.
And I want to chime in too and say thank you for doing this, because it's so funny. I couldn't be farther from a rock star. I'm like yoga teacher. I'm not even a 12-step person, but I'm in recovery, and you're telling my story too. And so much of what you're saying, I relate to so deeply. So it is awesome, amazing. Everything you're saying is resonating so deeply.
The thing that we all have in common, even though all our stories are completely, or some of them are the same, and probably mine and Mark is closer than, some other, because of our business. But what we have in common is when we do the first one, all bets are off. That's what we have in common. See?
Yeah.
All the other variables don't really matter. That's why when people start arguing, oh, I like this and I do this and I go here and I go there. And it's like, here's the deal, bro. Like, me and you, we couldn't be more different. But what's similar in us is, like, if we have a drink, we're definitely gonna, I never say definitely, because who knows? A second drink is probably on the horizon. The
100th is probably on the horizon.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, like, that's to me, like, when I look around a room in a meeting and this one, is this guy and that woman, I'm always thinking, well, that's the thing we all got. It's like, one line of blow for me, and I'll see you in about 2 weeks. I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
If we're lucky to even see
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I've left my house back when I smoked cigarettes. I left my house to go to the store to get smokes and came back 4 days later.
Oh,
I
God,
actually ended up in San Francisco. And I was in LA. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what happened.
So should we file that under seemed like a good idea at the time?
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea. No,
The last, the only
hate
other,
the
oh, I'm sorry,
life.
Mark.
Yeah.
The only other question we've got in here, actually, maybe we can save this for next time. We can just kind of file it
Okay.
away.
Yeah.
Taylor wanted to know, Ricky, if you have any Joan Jett stories, and I'm sure that could probably be another, I don't even know. We could probably be here all night, which I would love to hear those too. If maybe we can.
Well, with all due respects, I'm not here to talk about Joan Jett stories.
Of course not. Yeah.
But I had the best time, you know, in the worst time, because it was during the heydays when I was at my worst. But I love Joan to death. You know, my time with her was amazing. You know, I played with her from 81 to 91, like a little 92-ish. And it was a blessing. I mean, I got to be who I wanted to be when I was 13, 14 years old, you know. I've had a wonderful career. You know, the induction ceremony, obviously, if you saw it, was amazing. I got to play with half the Beatles.
Oh.
And you know, it was great to be up there with Joan and Gary Moss. And Lee unfortunately passed away, the original drummer. And she's the best, right? I mean, I'm sure Mark will say the same thing. She's like, you know, such a rock and roll icon. You know, she's, and so many people picked up the guitar because of Joan Jett, and that's like fabulous. So
even back in the Runaways, I was in a cover band that opened for the Runaways.
Yeah,
and I couldn't believe these girls, man. They were like 15 years old and just playing their hearts out. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
there wasn't too many girl bands back then.
I mean, you notice, like, me and Mark have been able to do what we wanted to do when we were little kids. And, you know, we played stadiums in front of, you know, 60, 70, 80,000 people. But you could see, you know, that stuff is here, see? And then the life stuff, the recovery stuff is like, that's the thing that we hold close to us right now. Like we love doing that. Like, there's nothing like going, like last night, I said, it's my first, you know, standing on stage with a Les Paul and an amp, you know, in almost 2 years. You could see, like, you know, I'm a ham and I got some swagger when I hit that stage, you know, and I was in my element and I was sober, you know, and I got up there and there were people out there drinking and stuff and like that. And I'm clowning around on stage and, you know, and so I love being that guy and I love being this guy, you know, and I love, you know, let me just end with this. Like, what I'm trying to work on now, what I started to say before was, like, once you get into recovery, then you can start working on your other things. You know, I'm not a great morning person. I'm like a 2 cups of coffee first before. Don't even like ask me a question. We just got a new kitten, right? It's like 5 months old, Charlie, after Charlie Watts, of course. And right now we lock him in the den at night because he's still like, I don't even want to come down in the morning if we don't. He's still looking around the house and the toilet paper's all over the place and he's knocking stuff over. I mean, he's a kid, he's a baby, right? But when I let him out of the den in the morning, he comes walking out with this big like cat grin on his face and he's purring and he sits on your lap and he starts licking your hand. And I'm like, I'm going to work on waking up like that. You know, because as Dorothy Parker said, sometimes I could wake up with like, what fresh hell will today bring? You know, and you know, there is no fresh hell.
You could be waking up worse though.
That's what I know. That's what I'm saying. Or you could be not waking up, you know? I mean, man, when was the last time I had a hangover, right? With that horrible feeling, you know? So I'm just, you know, we all keep working. We all keep working on our stuff. And we all, as time goes on, we find stuff that needs to be tweaked. Right, Mark?
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm a little too angry. Let me see what's making me angry. Maybe I should talk to this person about this. But you can't do any of that if you're not clean and sober.
I just like to let people know that there's another life available. You don't have to be suffering and going through this, you know, this dark place that you're in. There's a life available, and it's so much better, and it's so much easier to deal with things.
And if you think that it's your life's going to end if you get sober, I think me and Mark will confirm that there's plenty of action and drama in recovery.
Oh yeah.
You know? So.
Well, I cannot thank both of you enough for being here. It means so much for you to take your time and to share your story so generously. And we're just beyond grateful.
And
The
thanks
Phoenix
to
community is
Vince and
just
everything.
lucky to have you.
Thanks to Vince and everything you guys do, because you're, to have the Phoenix thing going on and give a place for people to go and do outdoor activities and stuff and hang out with people, that's part of that fellowship that we love.
Sure
That's a
is.
really
Oh my gosh.
really good thing you guys are doing. So
Yeah. Well, thank
It's-
you. Really
Part of
appreciate
the
it.
solution, baby.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. And we're gonna send out a recording. I know we had quite a few people who registered that weren't necessarily able to come live, and so they're looking forward to seeing the recording. Everyone here will receive the recording, and we'll also be announcing the next date for Byrd Friends. And
I got to figure out my
until
next
then,
victim.
but thank you, Mark, for joining us for this, and
Thank you.
again, thank you, Ricky,
Thanks
for
for having
doing
me.
this.
Thanks,
Appreciate you
Mark.
both so much.
really nice meeting you, Ricky.
You too, man. I'll see you on Facebook.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Have a great night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.